a good Moed, Moadim L'Simcha, on the third day of Chol HaMoed, Pesach. I'm going to share with you a continuation of the last video, where we discussed, first of all, the question of, is the idea of Moshiach crazy? And we began by answering that Moshiach is a person with a very specific resume. And we described this resume as it is distilled by the Rambam in his Laws of Kings and Their Wars, chapter 11, Halacha Daled. And we simply said that he must be from the house of David, he must be a descendant of King David, well-versed in the Torah, who works diligently in fulfilling the commandments of the Torah, the mitzvot of the Torah, and as they are described in the written Torah and in the oral Torah, and he will be involved in pushing all of the Jewish people to do the same, to study the Torah and to fulfill its mitzvot, and he will fight the wars of Hashem. At that point, when we see that he has this resume, we can hire him, quote unquote. Literally, the words that Rambam uses is Hareze becheskas shu Mashiach. We can assume that he is Mashiach. But now we're going to discuss his job description. And for this, we're going to go back to the very first law in the exact same chapter. And we're going to read, Hamelech HaMashiach, the king Mashiach, and Mashiach, by the way, means anointed. So it really means the anointed king. Osid la'amod ulahachzir malchus beis David liyashna. He will rise up, stand up, and by this, of course, we do not mean rise necessarily from a grave or something like that in some sort of in that form. We simply mean that he's going to rise up in prominence. And he will return the house of David, the kingdom of the house of David, the reign of the house of David, to its original position. Hamemshala harishona, Obona Mikdash, and he will build the holy temple in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount. Umekabitz nidche Yisrael. He will gather the Jewish people who are dispersed throughout the entire world. V'chozrin kol hamishpatim b'yamav keshahayu mikodem. And he will return the laws of the Torah to the land of Israel as they had originally been. Which means to say that the land of Israel will be ruled by the laws of the Torah. For example, makrivim karbanot, they will offer the sacrifices in the Beis HaMikdash, v'osin shmitin v'yovlos, and they will do the Shemitah, the 7th year, and the Jubilee year, as they are described, kechol mitzvasam ha'amur b'Torah, as they are described in the Torah. This means to say that the job description for Mashiach is made up of the following components. He needs to return the Davidic dynasty, number one. He needs to rebuild the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. He needs to gather the Jewish people back to Israel. And he needs to help reinstitute the laws of the Torah over the land of Israel and the Jewish people. So there's 4 basic parts to his job description. Are any of those crazy? I don't think so. They certainly seem a little bit distant from today's current reality. That I would not disagree at all. But crazy, certainly not. We're discussing a political, perhaps military victory. We're discussing a building of a building. We're discussing bringing the Jewish people back to Israel. We can use airplanes for that. And we're discussing a political or new political reality in Israel where the rules of the Torah will be the guiding rules of the land. Once again, are those distant from today's current reality? Perhaps. But to say that they're crazy, I would not agree with that at all. And I would go a step further and I would say that once again, today's current reality is so distant from the reality that we would have imagined 3 or 4 months ago. So that should certainly give us the strength of conviction that things that are distant realities are real possibilities. So I would like to conclude by wishing everybody who's watching and listening that we should be able to open our minds to this idea that a distant reality does not make it at all neither impossible nor crazy. As a matter of fact, it's very real and very realistic. Let us hope and pray that even by the end of this afternoon, today, this morning, that we will meet with the King Moshiach in the Beit HaMikdash that he will have rebuilt, together with all of the Jews. And there we will be able to offer the sacrifices and fulfill the mitzvot of the Torah, as we mentioned earlier, with the coming of the Moshiach, speedily in our days and even today. And I would just like to add that in tomorrow's video, we will discuss more about the era of Mashiach, what the world will look like when Mashiach is here. Up until now, we've been discussing more than anything the person of Mashiach. Have a wonderful Moed and a Chag Kasher v'Sameach.